Some players are better at it than others, but everyone's got a tackle. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. This week we're having a look at tackling stats in the first 6 rounds of the URC. There's more to a decent defence than just tackling, but it certainly helps if players can make them. We're going to start with the number of tackles made. Traditionally, we associate making lots of tackles with teams being under pressure, but the Rugby World Cup showed that a good defence is an essential part of the modern game. We see that also in the URC, with top tacklers being near the top of the table. So anytime during this video, feel free to pause it and have a look at the stats a little bit more in depth. We're going to do kind of, the highlights of each of these stat areas. So starting off with tackles made, the Lions have made the least amount of tackles with 650. And of the 5 teams who tackled least, only Munster are in the top 8 of the table. By contrast, the 5 teams who tackled most so far are all in the top 8. Connacht, they're just one short of 1,000 tackles so far. In the 34-26 win against tabletoppers Glasgow, they made 190 tackles. Their pressure forced many turnovers, just like this one.
Inside pass. Forward pass. Great line speed from Connacht, led by Joe Joyce in the inside Cotton channel. And then
tabletoppers Glasgow sit on exactly 1,000 tackles. In their opening weekend, they had a statement victory over Leinster, and in that one they made 192 tackles. This sequence was especially important as they denied Leinster a score just before half-time that could have shifted the momentum of the game.
Well, Leinster so close. This feels like such an important moment in the outcome of this game. Lee Barron, they've been camped to meter out for some time. Culhane waits, but it comes to Boyle instead. This time the Warriors.
Ulster are your top tacklers so far with 1,103. Not quite double the Lions, but not far off. They made 199 tackles against Glasgow at the weekend, but they topped that with 217 against Connacht. They put in a huge shift on their own line in that game, eventually holding Prendergast up over the line.
Connacht setting themselves, they clearly think they can score. It's Prendergast who's over the line, but he looks like he's held up. The Ulster players celebrate.
Next, let's take a look at missed tackles. Sharks have missed the least so far with just 76, and once again our stats point to the Sharks being pretty solid this season, and they're not far away from actually clicking despite having that big run of defeats. They need to just back up now that great win that they had over the Dragons. Both Scottish teams are doing well with 78 and 80 for Edinburgh and Glasgow respectively. In the top 3, we have Zebre on 129, Scarlets on 135, and out in front, Connacht on 139. But not all missed tackles are created equally. Connacht have conceded just 1.17 points per missed tackle, Zebre 1.71, but the Scarlets are highest in the league with 1.88 points conceded per missed tackle. This try conceded to Leinster had a few missed tackles, but in fairness, Jordan Larmour would cause many more missed tackles this season. Munster have conceded least points per missed tackle at just 0.86. I was going to show some great Munster scramble defence here, but I thought Munster fans might enjoy this missed tackle from Gary Ringrose instead. Ringrose has a license to shoot out of the line, often to good effect, but Zebo really did him on this one. Now on to tackle percentage. Last year, 85 to 87 was about the pass mark in terms of average tackle success, but this year standards are higher and teams on that average now are actually towards the bottom of our list. So we've got Lions are the worst on 84%, but not much better are Zebra and Scarlets on 85%. Then Dragons, Connacht and Munster round off the bottom 6 on 86%. But again, as we said, it's not just all about tackling, making those first up tackles. The scramble is important as well. On to the top 4 then. Glasgow on 92%, leading the way as they do the overall table. Ulster there in 3rd on 90%, along with the Sharks. We had a look at their defence a little bit earlier. And this defensive effort from the Sharks, with the game already lost, is indicative of the dedication to the cause as they deny the Ospreys a bonus point try.
They're in the right place, aren't they? Just to run the clock down, keep the ball. Try and get that bonus point try.
Well, they're edging closer. They go up the short side. Fricker! The pass evades Max Nagy.
Edinburgh are on 91%, and this sequence against Benetton showed a good combination of making your first up tackles and that decent scramble as well to force a turnover.
And along the line, Smith is there, so too Lamoureux, the captain for the corner. And he saw the touchline looming almost as quickly as the try line, had to fling it back inside.
We've looked at the teams, so now we can have a quick look at the top tackling players. Here are the top tacklers so far. We're going to focus on the top 3, but a quick honourable mention to Teddy Leatherbarrow, who's looked a great prospect when I've watched him for Scarlets. In joint second, we have James Venter, a rock of a man on 77. His hit here to stop Zebra's momentum is typical of his play.
Putting those granite shoulders to use.
Also on 77 is David McCann, who's been putting in some great shifts for Ulster, not only putting tackles but winning and forcing turnovers, as he did here against Munster.
The tackle was by Nathan Doak, and Ulster came over, and as David McCann has very nearly spoiled it, but he knocked it forward in the tackle. But initially the knock forward was by Munster, and that's good Ulster defending. David McCann, I'll tell you something, has been outstanding in terms of what he does at the breakdown this season.
He's clever, Jim.
But sitting top of the tree is Alex Mann for Cardiff on 81. Look at his sequence against the Stormers. He puts in the initial hit, then look how many involvements he has, right up to turning the ball over on his own line. Without his contribution, Cardiff definitely concede here. His performance was a big part in him going on to beat the Stormers 31-24, and you could certainly see him being in contention for Six Nations on this form.
And again, more warning signs. Finberg and Gomin Zulu. Oh, spelt, regathered somehow by Fenter. Stormers looking for a second. Bloming Keys, he stopped. Turnover by Alex Mann. How did he get that?
That's it for stats for another week. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll be back with more stats next week as we look at another area. Before then, we'll have a preview of the weekend's fixtures, reviews of select fixtures, and then a review of the round in total after that as well. So keep an eye out for those.